Alright, what's up guys? New deck profile. Today we are playing sort of an all-new deck. We've got the Evil Twins slash Live Twins. Basically these cards, awesome artwork. They look like Splatoon characters. They're really exciting. This is actually a first place deck profile in a remote duel tournament. Again, very good deck. It's a very strong control deck. It can be a little underwhelming at times, but what it does very consistently. Which is pretty good. It locks your opponent out of the extra deck, and it basically continues to pop your opponent's cards. It's very good at doing that. But you know, that's about all it's good at. It's not going to make a Dragon Link board, but it can certainly stop your opponent from making one. So let's get started. We play 3 copies of Live Twins Kai. Again, super awesome artworks. I honestly like the weaker versions of these cards than the stronger ones, because I just think the artwork's very like original. It really is pretty cool. But basically what these cards do is when you normal summon or special summon them, they get to special summon the other card in the archetype, which would be like this one, for example. You've got the red one, and the red one summons the blue one. If you summon the blue one summons the red one. It's basically interchangeable like that. And it's on normal or special summon. The only issue is you have to control no other monsters in order to activate that effect, which can be a bit annoying at times when you're trying to mix this deck with other archetypes. So in many cases you end up having to play the deck pure. But the other effect is if you have this on the field, your opponent has to pay 500 life points to attack. It's basically like that old card Toll. That effect's not super relevant because you're almost never going to have the little ones on the field. But, I mean, if you get really low on life points, you could just bring back one of the smaller ones, leave it on the field, and then if your opponent declares an attack, they basically lose. If you put them in that kind of a situation, it could somewhat matter. Then we play 3 copies of the Live Twin Leela. And, like I said, basically, same idea here. When you normal or special summon this one, it summons the other one as long as you control no other monsters. And same thing with the 500 life point damage. Now for our extenders. We play 3 copies of Parallel Exceed. This basically lets you go into the Link Devotee plays and all of that kind of stuff. It's very important for that. Like I said, this deck doesn't make a huge board, but it does make a very consistent board, and I will show you the combo at the end of the video here. This is one of the combo cards you can use for the combo. If you wanted to, you could play rank 4s too in your extra deck, like stuff like Abyss Dweller, but I'd rather play the artifact package instead. I think it just does more. It locks people out of the extra deck, and then you basically just continuously do that and win. Then we play a copy of Backup Secretary. This is another thing. If you control a Cyberse, you basically get to special summon this card. Again, very good. Just another extender. Now, for the artifacts, we play actually 2 copies of Artifact Scythe, because I am going for like a full artifact build here. You could replace this with like one Scythe, one Scythe, and one Lancia if you wanted to. And then we also play 1 copy of Moral Talk, just because Moral Talk is actually really sick in this deck, because it can also pop, which is really good. So sometimes you can get like a good like 2-3 pops in a turn, and then you can for example, you can summon the Leela, and then you can pop a card, and then you can pop activate Moral Talk, special summon it, pop another card, and then you can basically go into Unchained Abomination with IP Masquerena during your opponent's turn, and then continuously pop more and more cards. Sometimes you can, I'm not even joking, sometimes I'll pop 5 cards in one turn. It's actually kind of sick. And it's all pretty like tough to stop, because again, it's so consistent. So we've got the Artifact Moral Talk. Again, I'll go more on that as we continue. Then for hand traps, we play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Of course, best hand trap in the game. Hits every deck in some way. It hits every deck in some way. It might not be the greatest hand trap against every single deck, but it definitely has something in it. It's unbelievably generic. Then we play the Psy-Frame package, just because of a lot of our like starter cards are actually spells and traps, so we really don't have to worry about, like, our field is usually going to be empty anyway until we already commit to the board. And sometimes, honestly, you just break your board just falls apart because it's really not that strong. At most, you'll have like 2-3 monsters. So sometimes you just like have an empty board anyway, so it's pretty good for that reason. So that is all of the monsters that we play in this deck. Next, we play 3 copies of Signet Mining. This will get you to any of the, since all of the little monsters are all Cyberse, The Leela and the Kai, they're all Cybers, and then on top of that, the backup secretary and the Parallel Exceed are all Cybers. You can basically just search with, well, not Parallel Exceed, but the backup secretary. You can basically search that stuff, which is very good because, of course, the Parallel Exceed, unfortunately, is a level 8 in hand, so you can't search it off the mining, but the other stuff you can, which is very good. But yeah, it searches a huge amount of cards. Next, we've got Live Twin Home. This card basically allows you to discard a card, and then you can special summon a one of basically the little monsters, the Leela or the Kai, from your deck, which again pretty useful. And again, this is important, but they do activate on special summon. The only thing is that this actually does lock you into evil twin monsters, which isn't the end of the world. You can certainly do this effect during your opponent's turn, which is pretty good. Because it is a quick play, so you can use during your opponent's turn, and then you could just do like a follow-up play the next turn. So it's not the worst thing ever. It's a little bit of a frustrating restriction because it already has a discard cost, and on top of that, it locks you in. So it's a little frustrating, just because the most that you can do during your turn is really not that much. So it should really be during either player's turn. But again, it's I'd say a pretty decent searcher. Because it not only searches, it summons to the field, which is pretty cool. Next, we've got Secret Password. This card is, again, another search card. There's a few problems with this deck, and there's a common theme here. This card is cool because you can add an Evil Twin Spell or Trap card, or a Live Twin Spell and Trap card, that's a cool effect. The problem is the Spell and Trap cards aren't, like, super, super crazy. But what is good about this card is that its second effect is actually not really that exciting, because if you control if you control a Kai or a Leela, you basically can add a monster. But the problem with that is if you control them, you don't really need to add them, which is a little bit dumb because it's like counterproductive. But other than that, it's a serviceable card. Next, we play 2 copies of Pot of Avarice. I think this is the perfect amount. I think it really is. Sometimes, even you play 3, sometimes you'll open 2, and you won't be able to do anything with it. On top of that, this card is a very late game card, but it's in this deck, it's very common to fill your graveyard up with the cards you need. Very, very common. So I definitely am happy to see this in my opening hand or later in the game. Very good card. We've got 1 copy of Monster Reborn, obviously as a play extender, and then we've got the 2 trap cards we play, which is Evil Twin Present. 2 pretty cool effects. You have to control Leela and a Kai, but basically if you control Leela and a Kai, you can use a creature swap effect, which is give your opponent either Leela or Kai for something that they have. During the tournament, funny enough, somebody summoned a Predaplant Verde Anaconda, and I immediately just took that card and gave them a like a Leela or something. But it was really good. I prevented Dragoon from coming out because Dragoon is annoying. And then its other effect is you can target a Spawn Trap card and shuffle it into the deck, which again is not bad at all. Especially if you activate an end phase and they don't have an ability to respond. And then this card is, again, also a pretty decent one. It's basically like a Call of the Haunted and a copy of IP mixed into one card, which is pretty cool. You basically can summon a Evil Twin, or not an Evil Twin, but a Kai. You can summon a Kai from the graveyard, or you can summon a Leela from the graveyard, meaning the Link monster or the regular effect monster. And basically you can special summon it, and then immediately you can Link summon if you want to, but you're locked in, which is, it's okay. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Just to have it as searchable, it's pretty good. You don't have to search it if it's not appropriate, which makes it good. You basically have 4 copies of this card at any time, which makes it pretty good. Then we've got 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum. I do actually main the Sanctum because I think Sanctum is just too good. It's honestly, summoning those artifacts is one of your main playmakers in this deck, and I just feel like having the ability to continuously do it over and over and over is really just the strong suit of the deck. The first time you do it, you're going to do it with the Dagda engine, but as a follow-up plays, I actually think it is very useful to follow up with the Sanctums. I mean, it's just the bread and butter of the deck. That's what the deck is very comfortable playing around. It doesn't have a lot of damage output. It doesn't summon a whole great deal of monsters. But what it does do is it puts a lot of cards on board. And this is really a really good card with the Unchained Abomination, which is basically like your boss monster in this deck. It's also a fiend, so you can do it. You don't, even if you lock yourself out, it's a fiend. You can still basically go into that if you have locked yourself into fiends. So it's a very good card. It's like the boss monster in the deck, like I said. Then we play one copy of Imperial Order, a little controversial in this deck, because the deck does have a lot of spells. But to be 100% honest with you, like it does have a lot of spells, but once you actually, once you already locked, I'll give you an example. Like, it's pretty consistent to get an Artifact Sanctum on board. So you use Artifact Sanctum in your opponent. Their only real out is going to be like spell cards and stuff like that. So you can just activate Imperial Order and just stop that altogether. So now you've basically locked them out of the extra deck and you've stopped all spells. So they basically like have no out. And also it stops stuff like Dark Ruler No More if they're going second. Twin Twisters. What's another annoying card? The one you can't respond. Basically, it's the Forbidden Droplets. You can't respond to that. Stuff like that. It's pretty good against that kind of stuff. So I just find that once you already establish a decent board and you summon like an Unchained Abomination and you've got the loop of artifact cards going, you really don't need your spell cards anyway. So Imperial Order just kind of finishes the job. Next, let's go for the extra deck. We definitely max out on these 3 copies of Evil Twin Kai. Very good card. Basically, on summon, if you summon this and you control the blue one, you basically get to draw a card. Good effect. Then has a quick effect that you can use during your main phase or during your opponent's main phase, which is that you can, if you don't control the other one, meaning the blue one, you can special summon from the graveyard the blue one, being either the Link monster or the non-Link monster that I showed you earlier. And then the blue one has a similar effect where if you summon it and you have the red one on field, you can pop a card on the field, which is a good effect because you can pop your own like artifact cards and then get a whole bunch of crazy stuff going that way. And then if you, same effect as the Kai, if you don't control Kai, you can basically activate during your turn or during your opponent's turn to special summon from the graveyard the opposite color. Pretty good there. One copy of Artifact Dagda. That's to do our artifact plays. 1 Link Disciple, 1 Devotee, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Unicorn, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Crusader Avermax, our other boss monster, Unchained Abomination, and True and Berserker of the Tenyi. That card we just basically go into through the Cyphering package if things go absolutely right and we get to use that on our turn. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can I can show you the combo because it's probably promised in the title. So I'm going to zoom out. There you go. Zoomed out a little bit. And let me get the appropriate cards for you. All you need for this combo is one of the following things. You need either a Leela or a Kai, and then additionally you need either a Backup Secretary or a Parallel Exceed. Keep in mind the fact that you can search a lot of this stuff, and Signet Mining basically searches all 3 of these cards, which is incredibly useful. But this is what we need for this little combo that I'm going to show you here, and then let me just grab one of the artifact cards because that's what we're going to end on. So, pretty easy combo. Again, you can pick one of this set, and then Signet Mining can basically zoom out anything. But I'll go with just it really doesn't matter, Leela and Backup Secretary. All we're going to do is normal summon the Leela. I'm going to use it here. Normal summon Leela. Leela is going to be able to, since we control no other monsters, this is in our hand. Since we control no other monsters, we can special summon from our deck a copy of Kai. Now, since we control a Cybers monster, they're both Cybers, summon the Backup Secretary. We're going to link away the Backup Secretary in order to special summon a copy of Link Disciple. Next, we're going to link away the Kai in order to special summon a copy of Link Devotee. Then we are going to activate the effect of Disciple, Tribute Devotee, in order to Draw a card and discard. Also, Devotee has an effect where if it's tributed, you get to summon 2 tokens. So we're going to activate that, tribute for cost, and then we're going to draw and discard. If you have like, this is actually sort of important. If you have any artifacts in your hand, you don't want artifacts in your hand. You can basically draw a card, look in your hand, take out your brick, put it back in the bottom of the deck, which is incredibly useful. Like if you have any of the trap cards that aren't usable, you could just put them at the bottom of the deck or something like that. But yeah, draw and then put at the bottom of the deck that you get rid of your bricks. Pretty cool card. And then once Link Devotee is tributed, you get to special summon 2 tokens. I'm going to just use some cards here. So we have 2 tokens on board. They're both Cybers, which is useful. So now we're going to link away the Link Disciple and one of our tokens in order to special summon a copy of Artifact Dagda. Now we are going to link away the Live Twin Leela and our other token in order to special summon a copy of Leela, which is the Evil Twin Leela. So, you know, you need the Live Twin Leela to make the Evil Twin Leela, basically. Pretty useful. Or you can actually use another Evil Twin Leela to make an Evil Twin Leela, so it'll be fine. Now, since we don't control a copy of Kai, we can special summon any Kai from our graveyard, which is going to be this Kai, and we're going to link these 2 away in order to special summon a copy of Evil Twin Kai. Now, the reason we do that is we're going to basically set up our graveyard for next turn because we need the Evil Twin Leela in the graveyard. So now that our graveyard's all set up and cool, we're going to pass turn, and our opponent's going to go. As soon as they hit main phase, they say, you know, main phase, they pass priority, they do something. Like, let's say they normal summon something, you're going to activate the effect of Kai. Kai is going to target to special summon Leela in the graveyard. Then we're going to chain to our own Kai the Artifact Dagda. Artifact Dagda allows us to set an artifact card from our deck. So we are going to set, it's basically going to resolve second. Artifact's going to resolve first. So we're going to set the Scythe. And then the Kai is going to resolve, special summoning the Leela. And then Leela, when it hits the field, and it's special when Leela is special summoned, and you have a Kai on the field, you can actually pop a card on the field, any card, your side, your opponent's side of the field. It doesn't matter. So we're going to pop our own Artifact Sanctum. Artifact Sanctum is going to resolve in the second chain. Just not Sanctum. The Scythe is going to resolve in the second chain after it gets popped. Summons itself to the field, and now our opponent can't special summon the extra deck. So that, again, is a very, very, very consistent combo. If you have a copy of Artifact Sanctum, at this point you can also, like, you can also special summon something like a Moral Talk. And if you have Moral Talk, then you can also pop it. Pops on special summon, stuff like that. It's very good for those reasons. You could have, like, let's say, instead of Scythe, you had a copy of Sanctum set, and you didn't do the full, like, Dagda play. Let's say you have Sanctum set, you can summon Leela, target your own Sanctum, chain the Sanctum, special summon Moral Talk. The Sanctum's going to get destroyed, and then you pop with Moral Talk, pop with the Sanctum. So you really do a lot of crazy plays with the artifact cards in that version. Also, if you manage to get an IP Masquerena in rotation, that can really be insane in this deck too, because you can immediately just link away the Dagda, the IP, in order to special summon either Unchained Abomination or the City of Avermax. Abomination is insane because it basically pops 3 cards a turn. Like, it pops 3 cards on your turn, it pops way more on your opponent's turn. Just because when a card is popped, you get to pop another card. During the end phase, you get to pop a card, and that effect triggers the other effect. So the effects basically trigger each other. And then if a monster is destroyed by battle, you get to pop a card. So you can pop up to 3 cards in a turn. It's really, really disgusting. But yeah, that's it. That is the deck profile. Shout out to JP, who actually created this deck, or JC. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and enjoy your day.